بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Continuing our lessons on نواقض الإسلام, the Nullifiers of Islam, Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul rahimahullah. We are entering now on the third one, the third nullifier, where the Imam rahimahullah he says, الثالث, number 3, or the third nullifier, من لم يكفر المشركين أو شك في كفرهم أو صحح مذهبهم كفر. The third nullifier, whomsoever does not declare the polytheists as disbelievers, or is doubtful about their disbelief, or validates their madhab, and he believes their madhab, their religion is correct, kafara, he disbelieves. So here we see the Shaykh is referring to those who do not declare as kafir the one Allah and His Messenger alayhimus salam have declared a kafir. And so here the author, what he's talking about, this is a type of disbelief, because a person is denying, is committing kufr by making inkar, detestation or rejection at what's found in the Quran and Sunnah. And we'll see that the categories of those who declare disbelievers is not the same, there are levels. But the mushrikun, the polytheists, Allah said they're kuffar. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ. So Allah, He says clearly that the polytheists and the Ahl Kitab are disbelievers. And then imagine somebody comes after knowing this and says, no, they're not disbelievers, they're Muslims, or they are people of guidance. So this person making inkar is detesting what is ma'roof or ma'loom fi d-deen bid-darura, that which is known in the religion by necessity, and that which is in the Quran and Sunnah by nas, by text. So here the ulama say, when the author says, مَنْ لَمْ يُكَفِّرْ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, it means whoever believes that the polytheists are not kuffar. And here we're talking about things people like the polytheists, the mushrikun at the time of Rasulullah or those after, or the Jews or the Christians or the Buddhists or the atheists, anyone whose kufr is clear and they commit shirk. أو شك في كفرهم, or is doubtful about the disbelief, in that he has doubt. He's doubtful. Are they disbelievers or they're not? And you can't have doubt in matters that are clear in the Quran and Sunnah like this, because it's doubt in the Quran. So when Allah says that these people are kuffar, or لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ, you say, no, I don't know about that. Allah said they are. So shak here is dangerous, because go back to the conditions of La ilaha illallah. We know that a Muslim has to have yaqeen, certainty, with ilm, knowledge, and these will necessitate no shak. So the believer is not somebody who has doubt with the Quran and Sunnah. What is clear cut? We're going to talk about the category with this differing. These are clear. So إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. The believers are those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, then they don't doubt. So shak here is a type of doubt which will put someone to a state of disbelief. And the third one, أَوْ صَحَّحَ مَذْهَبُهُمْ, means he believes that the madhab of the disbelievers, the religion, is valid or acceptable, whether it be the polytheists, the Jews, the Christians, or other contemporary disbelievers like the communists or the Batiniya, or those groups who are falling into these other forms of kufr. Or even some of the ulama even consider in today's time Rasmaliya. Rasmaliya is the capitalists. Shaykh Salih Fawzan Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he mentions them as also mushrikun, because they worship money. So they are from the polytheists today. Money makes the world go round. Na'udhu billah. These kinds of statements are un-Islamic. But they're kuffar, not capitalists who make money. Those who believe that the world is materialist, Marxist, those kinds of people. So the ulama say, when you say La ilaha illallah, from that, from the shurut, the conditions of La ilaha illallah, is what? Kufr. بِكُلِّ مَا يُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, to disbelieve in everything worshipped besides Allah. So whoever doesn't do that, then he's combining between La ilaha illallah, its condition of accepting it, without coming with the negation. Ithbat He's affirming Allah's oneness, at the same time affirming another God or another deity or another religion as being correct. So it's contradictory. قال الله تعالى فمن يكفر بالطاغوت, whomsoever disbelieves in the false deities, ويؤمن بالله, and believes in Allah, فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى, this person held on to the strongest handhold. So disbelieving the taghut is necessary, and disbelieving whomsoever Allah declared as a disbeliever, and having doubt about them, or making equal their religion, or considering it valid, is to essentially say that all of them are upon Islam and guidance. Whereas Allah says, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ Islam. The religion only with Allah is Islam. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whomsoever desires or follows a religion other than Islam, then they will never be accepted from them. So from here, we can see that this is a dangerous matter, especially in the modern era, where there are a lot of people who are trying to bring closer some of these religions, claiming that they all share the same roots, they're all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the idea that Allah is one, the paths to Him are many. And this is a very Buddhist mindset. Yeah, but some of the groups, they say this, all roads lead to Mecca. No, some of them lead to the ocean, Sheikh. You're going to die. And it's not true. Right? This statement is wrong. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says Allah is one, His messenger is one, the path to Allah is one. This is how it is. So we can't say Allah is one, the path to Him many. It's nonsense. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the one book, one messenger, one manhaj, one tariq, sirat al-mustaqim, and then you're going to come and say there's many. So we need to explain this to many of the lay people, because some of them, they believe that this kind of perennialism, right? The idea there's multiple voices or ways to guidance, na'udhu billah. However, what does Shaykh al-Islam mean by this? The one who doesn't declare the disbelievers. Is it all one category, or there are many categories? As we'll see, there's categories. They're not all the same. But before going there, for those who may encounter people like this, we must remind them that the people who don't accept Islam, they go to the hellfire. If the truth came to them and they knew about it, and we're talking about somebody who has no excuses, no nothing. We're talking about the general ruling. Hadith Muslim, Hadith Abu Hurairah, وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ, by the one whose Muhammad's soul بِيَدِهِ is in his hand, لَا يَسْمَعُ بِي أَحَدٌ مِنْ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ, nobody hears about me in this ummah, from يهودي ولا نصراني, whether it be a Jew or Christian, ثم يموت ولم يؤمن بالذي أرسلت به, then he dies and doesn't believe in that which I have been sent with, إلا كان من أصحاب النار, except that he's from the people of the hellfire. So this hadith Sahih Muslim is very clear that Islam is one and everything else is falsehood. So with that being said, then the scholars say that Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah is talking about here people who do not declare as disbelievers those who their disbelief is been cleared. And some of the ulama say it's talking about the kuffar who are a kafir al-asli, somebody who's a kafir in origin. Because we know kufr can be divided into two groups, two categories. Those are kuffar or a kafir asli, who's kafir, he never came to Islam. Then a Muslim who became Muslim and then left Islam, murtad. So he did something after becoming Islam, took him out of Islam. The first one is called kafir asli, original kafir, never accepted Islam, he's kafir. This one is kafir, we have to accept him as kafir and say he's a kafir, he's not a part of Muslim Islam because he never accepted it, and he's not upon guidance. And then there's the one who became Muslim, then he fell out of it by doing a major sin major nullifier, one of these nullifiers, or something that took him out of the deen. So the murtad, the apostate. And this one, it has levels. Sometimes it's disputable if he did something kufr or not. Sometimes it's clear cut. But the question is, the kafir asli, this one everyone agrees, you have to declare the disbeliever. Jew or Christian, no one can say he's a Muslim. Because if he was, he wouldn't be called Jew or Christian. But some of the people, they people believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed all of them to go to Jannah. And they bring the ayah in Surah Baqarah as doubts. So these kinds of people, they're not saying necessarily the kafir or Jew or Christian is a good person or is a Muslim. He's just saying that they're going to make it to Jannah. So we have to ask him, what do you mean by that? The Jew or Christian before the time of Isa and Musa? Or are you talking about the ones today after the Islam has come? So because they have a shubha, they're using the ayah wrong. We already studied before. We don't make takfir, we make qamat al-hujjah. We have to explain to him, this ayah, you're misunderstanding it because he's hearing it online. People are saying that the Jews and Christians go to Jannah. فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. That's the hearing. So we have to explain to them. Otherwise, we just can't make takfir of them without understanding that this person is not saying, right, he doesn't believe everyone's going to Jannah. He just thinks that this is saying Jews, Christians, and Muslims are making Jannah because Allah said it. But his understanding is wrong. So the ulama say first level then, the takfir of people, the first level, is whoever's kufr has been established binas, by text. Man thabata kufruhu binas. Whoever's kufr has been declared by text, clear textual evidence. This case, whoever doesn't declare them as disbelievers or is doubtful about their disbelief is also a kafir if the person has no preventatives and has met the conditions. So the first one, someone Allah called a kafir, Jew, Christian, in the Quran, Hindu, Majus, Allah declares them kuffar, and someone comes and says, no, they're Muslim. This is kufr, takes you out of Islam. A person who said this will become a kafir if إذا ثبت الشروط وانتفاء موانع. So we're gonna mention that because the person could still have doubt. Like I gave you the example, some people think Jews or Christians go to Islam because they read the ayah wrong, or they heard a sheikh who said this is what it means. So the first one, those whose kufr has been established to textual evidence, there's no doubt these people are kuffar. You cannot have doubt about that, and whoever does will be a kafir. In general, this is wasf, and specifically if they meet the conditions and there's no preventatives. Second category, those who are disbelievers, mujma'an alayhi bayna muslimin, all the Muslims agree. So this person is not mentioned, or this group of people are not mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah, but if they've come with kufr, which is agreed upon by the ulama that this is kufr. There's no doubt this person, this group, or this kinds of beliefs are kufr. Hence, if somebody knows the ulama have agreed that this type of group or this kind of statement is kufr by a consensus, whoever then believes that such people, such groups are Muslims, or is doubtful about the disbelief of such people, then that person also becomes kafir if there is no preventatives and the conditions be met. And we're saying that again and again because we're going to see some groups with a clear cut are kuffar, but that doesn't mean everyone who believes that they're Muslims are kafir. An example that the ulama mentioned, because Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, in his time he talks about this in Jami' al-Rasail, Majmu' Fatawa, and also Jawab al-Sahih, many places. He talks about the Yahud and Nasara, clearly a kuffar, and he talks about other groups too, right? Like for example, the people in his time, like the Bataniyya or the Nusayriyya. The Nusayriyya, he says, are people whose kufr is consensus amongst the ulama. Or the Bataniyya, the people who call themselves the Fatimiyun, they're not Fatimiyun, they're Ismailis, Batanis, they're extremists, so much so that even the Shia Rafida call them kuffar. That's how bad they are. Right? So they believe in absolute nonsense. So these two groups, Shaykh Islam gives an example, people who mujma' alayh, bayn muslimin, these are kuffar. But that doesn't mean then that someone who thinks that the Muslim immediately becomes kafir. As we'll see, they could still be preventative. He doesn't know them any better. But we're agreeing that this kind of group, the Muslims agree they're kafir. Then you're not allowed, or you shouldn't say that they're Muslims, nor should you be doubtful about their disbelief. And if someone did it without any preventatives or any kinds of reasons otherwise, and they have no preventatives or they have met the conditions, then this person will be a kafir. The third category, and this is very important, the majority of the takfir nowadays is a takfir which is established bi-ijtihad. Man thabata kufruhu bi-ijtihad. So the ulama are not all agreeing on this. The people are making ijtihad, different groups, different ulama. In this case, a person who, if he takes one of the two views, he's not a kafir. He doesn't leave the fold of Islam, nor is allowed to make takfir of a person who doesn't agree. Example, hukum tarik as-salah. The ulama differed, past and present. The one who leaves off salah is a kafir or not. If I say they're Muslim, you say they're kafir, you can't make takfir of me. Because we studied before, what's the rule about takfir? It has to be something agreed upon. Can't be something with this ikhtilaf and it's muhtamal. These are possible viewpoints. So why am I saying this? Some people go overboard. And they make takfir of people on something with the ulama differed. Another example, udhr bi-jahl, the discussion about whether someone might have an excuse or not on a particular nullifier or some kind of disbelief. The ulama differ, when does it apply or not? So imagine someone comes today and say, I think this group has jahl. They are excused by ignorance. And someone else says, no, they're not. Can this person make takfir of the other person? No, because this is where the ulama are differing. Another example would be someone who's not even kafir aslan. And you made ijtihad in the wrong ijtihad. And this is what's going on nowadays. Khawarij and I had ijtihad aslan. And they made takfir of people bidun haqq. Then they make lazim on you to make takfir of them. So what's going on here? It's a house of cards. It's in the air. They make takfir without evidence. Then they say, if you don't declare him a kafir, you're kafir too. Man lam yukaffir kafir fahuwa kafir. And they go on like this. And we ask them, first establish the kufr. And why you have to be careful here, because most takfir is here. This guy, this imam, this ruler did this, not even kufr. And therefore he's kafir, and whoever prays behind him is kafir. You say Ameen behind him, you're kafir. The whole ummah is kafir. This is what's going on TikTok now. Imagine, from Ameen Qurut, all of us out. The guy behind the screen, the guy in the haram. And if you don't believe him, brother, this is what's going on nowadays. And you ask the guy, how is he a kafir? He can't even prove his case. So we have to be very clear. This kind, no way he can make takfir. He's a mujrim, the person who did it. He's himself did ijram. He's done criminality. And he's a criminal for that. But why is this important? Shaykh al-Islam not talking about this one. He's talking about the one who's kufr bin nas or mujma' alayh. If this person, if someone after this knows that there's a Quranic ayah or the hadith about someone disbelief of a particular group or individuals, or the ulama agreed upon it, you can't have doubt or believe that these people are valid. But with that being said, is it possible for someone, even after this, to still be excused? And the answer is yes. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is a good example of this, for he mentioned many places, and some of the Khawarij and others, they quote his work, but they don't also quote the other statements he might have. For example, he mentions about the Nusayriyah, that these are kuffar, and the Qaramita and the Bataniyah. We know them, the kuffar. And if you don't know who the Qaramita are, brothers, they're the people who stole the black stone. And it doesn't get worse than that, right? It's not Muslimin. Someone killed Muslims, stole the black stone, and put the bodies inside the Zamzam well. That's not a kafir. Yet there are people who believe they were good people. So Shaykh al-Islam, trying to understand this, he mentions in two places, more than one. So he mentions this in Mujma' Fatawa, and also later he talks about it in Asar al-Masloon and also Minhaj al-Sunnah. But here he says that such people like this, if a person believes or is confused about their affair, the one who doesn't know the hal, man lam ya'rif haluhum, he doesn't know their situation, and he got confused about the affair of the Qaramita, the Bataniyah, who claim to be Fatimiyun, and they claim this, but they're actually from the Shia, and he follows them and inclines towards them. He says they're only one of two people. أحد رجلين, it's one of two people. إما زنديقا منافقا, a zindiq, apostate who's a hypocrite, وإما جاهلا ضالا, or someone who's misguided and ignorant. See the fairness there? It's possible somebody, he doesn't know any better. Imagine, he's following a group that stole the black stone, he doesn't even know. Maybe he did that. He doesn't know what they believe. And the same issue you find between Ahlul Ilm about the Shia. You see, some of the ulama takfir, the Rafida, Shia mutlaqan, and some they make tafsil. The reason why this is important, if we differed on that, let's say you take one view, I believe that they're not all of them kafir, and some say all of them kafir. Can we make takfir of each other? No. What we're going to say is that these are two viewpoints behind Ahl Sunnah. But what we do understand that if there's some people amongst them who are not knowing better and some who are. So the reason I'm saying this is that if today someone comes to you and says, I believe the Shia are not all kafir, you're not going to say you're kafir. You're going to say, well, what do you mean? Which view do you take? Well, this Shaykh said this. Because some of the ulama, you see how they answer. With tafsir, and some they are more unrestricted because they do come with kufr. And the benefit behind this is that if someone understands this, our job is not to make takfir of each other, rather explain to people. Hence some of the ulama they mention now. If there are people who are clearly believing some of these people are Muslim, what's your job? To make iqamat al-hujjah. Explain to them the kufr of such a group. If after this, for example, let's say it's a group with mujma' alayh, like the Nusayriyah or the Bataniyah or the others, clear cut, everyone agrees upon their kufr. What are you going to do then? You explain to them, this person is a kafir. And you clarify this group is kafir, and here's the kufr they do. And after the person has established the proof on them, and still he said, I don't think so, then he becomes kafir. Why? Because the hujjah has been established, he knows they have kufr, and he's going along with it. Different, right? Than someone who said, I didn't even know. Some people we tell them, like, do you know the Nusayri or the Alawis or non-Muslims? They'd be like, I never knew. Different than someone who, after learning about it, says, no, I still think it's fine. Legend to Da'ima, the permanent committee, they were asked a question in relation to this, about the people who may declare Ubad al-Qubur, the grave worshippers, as disbelievers. And they said that if some of the people of Tawheed declare the grave worshippers as kuffar, whereas another group declared them not to be kuffar, but rather they need to have established a proof, and they have a doubts, and the people who follow this or fall into this is not acceptable, they said, to make takfir of the person who takes otherwise, the other view. Why? Because this person who's saying this, he's believing that before you make takfir of them, do iqamat hujjah. But someone else will say this is ma'roof, ma'loom, masal al-jariyah, there's no excuse. But they said, but as for the one who believes the Jews or the Christians or the groups like the communists who are clear-cut kufr, clear upon disbelief, then these people, right, there's no doubt in relation to their kufr. So in this case, this will be kufr, something clear-cut. But still, the point is, we have to clarify to the people that the people know this. Some people, they know the Jews and Christians are not Muslims, but they were told by somebody that they were exempted. Or they have, for example, he doesn't know any better. So the rule then would be, whoever doesn't declare a kafir to be a kafir is not always a kafir. And we have to clarify that qa'idah, because the Khawarij and others, they use it unrestrictedly. And if somebody said something along those lines, our job is to clarify. For example, some Muslims, they may say something or believe something, he doesn't know any better. And this is our job to teach, not to just to make takfir. Another example, they say, if someone says all three religions are millat Ibrahimiyya, there is Abrahamic faiths, and this is a false call, right? It's a call towards disbelief, saying this. Because Ibrahim a.s. was not a Jew nor Christian, he was a Muslim, Hanif and Muslimah. But if someone said that, what will we do? We're going to explain to him, what do you mean by that, brother? Don't you know this and this? Explain. Because he might be thinking that all of them are upon Tawheed. And there are some Muslims, unfortunately, this is their viewpoint. And there are some Muslims, even the understanding of Tawheed is wrong. So when we understand this, brothers and sisters, our job is to be clear that we don't just make takfir of people. We already established, look to the conditions and preventatives, but your job is to make sure that people have established upon the proof before you make any judgment on them. And therefore the ulama then, when they divide into these two categories, they say then the person who has doubts or validates the madhab or the beliefs or believers, those whose disbelief is textually proven or agreed upon, after the proof is established upon him, this person becomes a kafir. As for the person who after or doesn't know any better, or it's an issue the ulama have differed, or it's an issue based on ijtihad, then we don't make takfir that person. Rather, we understand there's a scope there. If the person something which is based on ijtihad and its evidences and has different viewpoint, then we already mentioned. But if it's something where a person doesn't know any better, we have to explain. We shouldn't make takfir on the people. And the reason why I mention this today is that we're not even in that situation. We're in the situation of the third category. People make takfir on something which is nobody made takfir of, maybe except the Khawarij. And the reason why this is important is we'll see later, if something is not kufr to begin with, then you declare the kufr. Then you make takfir of the people. This is where we're going. And it's a good question to always ask somebody if he's making takfir of someone or something, why are they kuffar? How are they? And ask them those questions. It's not to assume that they're correct. So for example, someone will say, this person is a taghut, and Allah says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ, doesn't disbelieve in the taghut, so therefore he's a kafir, and you also don't make takfir, so you're a kafir. No one doubts this point that the taghut have to be disbelieved in. We're disputing if this person is a taghut or not. This is where we are. Not the application of what comes after. So a lot of times what they do is they try to quickly establish the hukm takfir, and we're going to seek, as we keep going, that in order to make takfir of someone, what kind of hujjah do we need? How clear does it have to be? It has to be kufr bawah, clear cut. Like Imam Shawkani said, like the sun in the middle of the day. Clear cut, there's no dust on it. And that hadith, when Nabi said, unless you see clear cut kufr, Imam Nawawi comments saying, there's no possibilities, there is no ihtimalat, or it's not something open to opinion or dispute. It's clear. Whereas the people of bid'ah, what they do is they make takfir on issues which are very unclear. It's possibilities a person could have made a mistake, or the person has a different reason. They don't make tafsir. Very important. Because what's happened today is that somebody may come to you and say, do you declare kafir so and so and so? And before you even answer the question, you have to ask him, so how does you kafir? And then or you can ask the question said before, is this agreed upon or not? If the answer is no, then khalas, you can't make takfir. It's mani'. Because the person might have ta'wil. So this is one of the ways to disarm these kinds of takfiris. What are you going to ask them? Is it agreed upon or not? And he's going to say yes, but then by who? Then he's really going to expose himself, right? Some unknown characters online, and some people, we don't know who they are. And you can say, these people agreed. Okay, khalas. That's your group. You already exposed yourself. But they're going to tell us, tell us who agreed upon it. And if as soon as they concede, okay, it's not agreed upon, khalas, we can't make takfir there. We have to train ourselves to be this way, brothers, because these people, what they're going to do, they're going to try to put you in the corner and say, oh, you don't believe it's kafir? Okay, you're kafir. So instead of taking that, they just push back and say, can I explain to me who agreed? Or how is it kufr clear cut? Or is it textual? And then after that, you can see where they're getting their things from. Because right now, this third category is much more rampant than the other one. Examples we might find today is even terminology not found in the Quran and Sunnah, as we'll get to when we get towards the idea of ruling about other than Allah revealed, or in the conversation about allyship with disbelievers. We're using terminology today, Allahu A'lam, what it even implies. For example, peace treaties, normalization. We don't know what these imply in sincerity. What do you mean by that? It's an open term. But today it's just like kufr. I don't want to even concede to the concept. But I don't know what we have to explain. What does it mean? It's not a clear-cut term. But they say if someone does this, kafir. And this is what I'm talking about today. If you go online, brothers, you guys can see, probably you've seen already. So what we're going to learn here is that someone whose kufr is clear-cut by textual evidence or agreed upon the ulama, after someone knows this and the knowledge is established upon them, the proof is established upon them, then they disbelieve or they believe that they're upon truth or they're doubtful, then this is kufr. After that, which is ijtihadi, then of course it's open, inshallah, we'll end with this much, since this naqad is very short compared to the other one. And next week we'll take the next one, inshallah ta'ala. Anyways, any quick questions? I think there's a question, right? No? Yes, brother. So that's a good question. Do we make takfir of the different groups and sects like the Ash'ari, Mu'tazila, or that stuff? And the answer is no. The ulama, they don't, because they have a lot of doubts and they have false ta'weel, false interpretations, which is a preventative. Now it's true that some of the earlier scholars, some of them of the view that you can make takfir of them. But Jumhur ulama, the muhaqqiqun, do not accept that takfir because they have so much doubts and their inkar is not like the inkar of the other groups. So an example would be, as Brother Majid is talking about the sifat, some groups do reject the sifat except for 7 or 8. But they're not making inkar like the Jahmiyyah, are they? They're making inkar by way of a conclusion of their ta'weel. So it's not like they're rejecting outright. If they end up rejecting it through the interpretation to run away from likening Allah to His creation. So they have doubts in interpretation. So the ulama understand this, they didn't make takfir of them. Whereas the Jahmiyyah and other groups, they just reject Allah's attributes, His names, His wujud, everything altogether. Then it's not the same. So we have to be very careful here because otherwise their statements are kufar, but because they're preventive, we don't make takfir. And that's the justice of Ahl Sunnah. As for Ash'ari, they make takfir Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah. They don't have the adala. We have to be honest. They make takfir of us, and we don't make takfir of them. That shows Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah how just we are. Because some people, they don't know that. They say, oh, you guys always talking about. Ask them, read their books. What they say about Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah. They don't hide in the muqaddimah. Some of the muqaddimah. Whoever doesn't believe this, huwa kafir. SubhanAllah. So why we're saying this? Because that's why we don't do it, because we have justice. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah is a great example of that. So inshallah it becomes clear. Yes? Yes, so that's what we're talking about here. So I was asking about groups like the Ismaili and the Batani and Nusayri, all those groups, the ulama agree. Druze, these groups are very clearly on kufr. Okay, compare now what Shaykh Islam is talking about. He's talking about in his time, Nusayri are there, Batani are there. But he says the one who doesn't know their hal. So if he knows their hal and he's established the proof, then he believes that, then it's kufr. So the difference between wasf and or mutlaq and muayyan. So we're going to say this group is kafir. Now if someone comes today and says, I think Ismaili is a Muslim, the question we have to ask, does he know who the Ismailis are? Most likely not, because if he said they're Muslim, he doesn't know any better. And if you ask the average Muslim who the Ismailis is, he doesn't even know. So imagine if he says he's Muslim, all he knows is that the guy say call himself Muslim. So that's why I call him Muslim. But if you ask him, do you know what he believes? He says, I don't know. So Shaykh Islam is very just in there. Either he's a zindiq, he said, munafiq, or jahil dal. Why did he even concede that? Because the Qaramita are the worst. Imagine, people thought they were connected to Ahl Bayt, and they're not. So that helps us to know that if somebody comes today and he says, I believe this, we're going to say, okay, brother, let me explain to you who they are. And then after all that, he's going to say, no, I don't believe this. Just like some of the Shia, again, the different individuals may not be the group. The individuals may believe something random. As we know that we met before, some Shia, I don't know even what they believe. But they say the Shia. So obviously we're going to ask them, do you believe this? And say, I don't. So we told him, you're not Shia then. Then they go, maybe I'm not. Some of them got offended because he thought he was what he's not. So why am I saying this today? Why would you make takfir of someone like this? He doesn't know anything. So what you need to do is differentiate between the two. A lot of times we notice that these groups which the ulama agreed upon are not as many as the one that we find to the ijtihad. The ijtihadi ones are where you find a lot more discussion. But the one which you agreed upon, they're not as many. But also remember, the person has to know their hal. Because it's true, someone knows Jews or Christians or thinks they're Muslim, and he has no doubts, this guy's not a Muslim then, right? If someone actually believes that. But then imagine today, do you think a Muslim really believes that, who really understood? Most of the time they have shubuhat. We should not be shocked, brothers. You go online, you find some muftis who are passing fatwas like this, right? Saying that they're all our brothers and they're all together. And so a lot of lay people do have shubuhat. You have to be more mindful. We have to think, people don't know anything. People don't know anything nowadays. Allahu A'lam. Any last questions? Yes, brother. So the Ash'ari, whether it be the ulama or the lay people, it's all the same. I mean, the ones who are knowledgeable, they have more doubts than the lay person. But the ulama, they were just, they didn't make takfir of them versus the other groups like the Mu'tazila or some of the more knowledgeable ones. But even then, you could say that it's not appropriate. Because some of the times when we think about these issues, they're not easy, they're not black and white. Right? It's easier to say this person is a kafir. But if you look at Jumhur ulama, they didn't do it. And that's the safest stance. We should say the Ahl Bid'ah, and that's the best way to go with it. And again, it's a long discussion, but we don't have time for it. But that's the best way. There's many proofs for it. Because the view of those who said they were are very minority versus those who didn't. And but that's the summary. So this is how we should do it. But you're right, there's some people might not have an excuse. Someone might have an excuse. But the rule is we go with the asr. We shouldn't go in there like that and just make it the same way. Because this is what the ulama have taught us. Yes, last one, inshallah. So Qadian is example. The Qadianis are kuffar. We all agree. But now imagine somebody you met who says the Qadian is Muslim. What are you thinking about this? Does he know what a Qadian is? That's a good question. I can't see any Muslim. I don't know any Muslim who might think Qadian is Muslim. Because everyone knows they're not Muslim. Right? So that's a good example. But yes, Saf. That's what I'm trying to say. If you meet somebody who says they're Muslim, you have to ask them, do you know who the Qadianis are? I believe... Yeah, the Qadianis themselves, he's upon kufr. This is kufr. But this person, you have to guide him to Islam. Because again, some of the ulama say these kinds of group, they're not even though ascribed to Islam, he's in a kufr group, you have to give him da'wah towards the truth. That's what you're supposed to do. It can be. We can't say there cannot be. But when you speak to them, your goal is to do da'wah to them, not make takfir of them. That's the thing. That's not our goal. The goal is you come make takfir. What kind of da'wah is this? Right? The person is misguided. You want to guide him. So when you see such a person, he can be excused. I mean, we have to be honest. There's some people out there, maybe they're just following their grandfathers and fathers what they're doing. But when we meet them, explain to them Islam. Why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the final prophet? We have to explain to them these things. That's our job. But then the problem today, people are fixed on the takfir and not the da'wah. The ulama always emphasize iqamat al-hujjah. That's our job. Right? But you're right. There's some people that might not have excuse. Some of them like to call us to just upon kufr. Clear cut is. But what I'm saying, you meet someone like this, try to give da'wah. Be keen on this. Because Allah subhanahu may guide them in your hands. And we've seen before, people who were guided were Shia, or Qadiani, other groups. Allah guides into the straight path. Inshallah, we'll end with this much. Subhanakallah bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.